And after listening to the panelists, we'd like to have the audience very quickly react to that. So, Vivek, you want to have a stab at it? So what do you think?
I don't think it's profit is a bad word at all. I'm in that business and I stand by it. I think it's what's said is reasonable. The quality has to be before profit. This business is different. It's not selling, other stuff, chocolates and all. So you can't equate it to that. Certainly, learner, the quality has to be within that. But given that, I think profit is absolutely fine in my view. And in any case, I don't think as a country we have a choice.
Okay, how I will say, take profit exactly is not in terms of money, but profit can be also in terms of how many, like being human, what we can do to this society. That can be a very good profit as well. Just earning the things in terms of money is not the only thing. If we can earn a few, government officers like bank POs and all, it happens at times like when our MD and other board members, they go to the places, they meet many of the bank POs and all. The moment they are into the city, they are there to welcome them. And I think this is the biggest profit we have made till date.
Thank you, Gaurav. And just a quick note from the organizers, they are okay that this session has gone beyond time. All right? So I have not yet overstepped it. We will have some questions from the house. So we have the time and the organizers are okay with it.
Yep. Like I stated, I think we don't have a choice. Private players have to come in, and if they come in, there will be a profit motive. But I agree that it has to be reasonable. And if the private players take it upon themselves to present their case and keep quality over profit, I think both public and private can work together.
I would just like to give our own example. As Aschand, we are now almost 75 years old in publishing industry, one of the oldest. We take pride in two things. Number one is that whatever we earned out of education, we have put back in education. So that is something which is there. And secondly, if you look at Delhi University per se, and you talk about any college, Sri Ram College, you talk about Thirurimal, talk about any college. It is because of the philanthropy which the people who made profit in industry and who went back to it. So what I'm saying is that profit is there. But in education, the profit will not be looked at from the same angle as any other venture. So without profit, in fact, you can't go back and continue to, harness whatever you want to do in that organization.
Right. Show of hands, audience, is it okay? And is India ready for for-profit educational institutions? So all right. We have, okay, at least 30%. And as I pause, more hands are going up. Okay, so, all right. So, I guess this is an important topic. The other thing, it's not profit, but, the participation of the private sector, and which is what we all talked about. In a country like Japan, I believe about 73 to 75% of all higher ed comes from the private sector. So that's a model I think we can also study and learn from, and they've done a great job of what they're doing. US, of course, now has, some very scaled and large for-profit educational institutions. And how that's played out and what kind of, regulatory regime the US policymakers put in place is probably something we can study as well, because US does have some very large for-profit organizations. Okay, and one quick, question before I hand it over, because, we are all talking about the 2020 target and the GER and how many hundreds of universities and colleges and millions of people that need to get educated. The estimates are that the private sector, if it participates in the same ratio, which is about 50% right now, will need to invest about 50,000 crores every year. into higher ed. So the question is, and then anyone in the panel, and then we'll throw it open to the audience, where does this 50,000 crores come from? How is the industry, going to scale or participate in this opportunity, which requires an investment of about 50,000 crores year on year till the year 2020. So if any of the panel members have a view on that.
Of course, as I said before, we need private sector. I mean, we cannot do without private sector. And and today, when I said that today is the best time, 10 years back, 5 years back, I would not have said like this. Today, we have place for add-on courses, which we never had before. Today, we have something like MOU being signed, which we never had before. Today, we have, and few of you have come out with nice things like ambassador program. For me, Google is coming out with an ambassador program. ENY is coming with ambassador program. What is this ambassador program? Where are you giving student an internship for a year? What is student doing? Student is adding value in the campus about your industry. So students are talking about, oh, Google is doing so much. Google is a good place, Teachers are talking about so many students benefiting from it. That's a good place. So somewhere along the line, we've got things like that, especially for the publishing houses, as I'm saying. There's a lot of place which we never had. Today, a lot of colleges are planning. They're still in the planning stage to have their journals, which we never had. So why not, you all join us. We also do not have that expertise to go and do it. We do not know where to apply. We do not know where to go it. Today, so much money is there for the faculty, this thing. You come as partners, tell us, we are advisors. We need advisors because we do not know how to go about it. We spend a lot of time sitting in Ratan Tata Library, doing our PhDs, but we never learn how to take it forward in the industry and government, So please guide us there. Not only in writing books, textbooks, Again, somewhere along the line, textbooks are also a bad word in the higher academics. Textbook, it's not a research book. Then that means we'll not consider you for the promotion. The moment you go with the textbooks in the promotion meeting, they'll say, no, textbook is a bad word. Forget it. So you have to guide us towards research. Today we need all those e-journals. We need stuff there. Guide us on how to take that. If you have built a trust in a faculty is going to stay in the institution for 40 odd years. Students are there only for 3 years. That faculty will be your trainer of the trainer that you have. Your faculty would be that. So please pick up those people, give them awards, give them this thing. The recognitions also have points. We never had those points for these things, which, last few years it just added. So teachers are also looking for those points, So you all can give us that. Bring that confidence in terms of the quality also. All of you have had best education in the best institutions. If you were best, that's the only reason you picked up industry at that time. Few of us fools we thought that, hame to padhana hi hai. We have to be good teachers, because we love teaching, so we stayed here. You are the best. You are the best, So please also bring those best practices in the real world, not only for the pilots. Somewhere along the line, we are sick of the good pilots showcased in big, good conferences. But what after pilots? That's my question. Please help us in doing that. And from there, you can make your crores in the process. But, to begin with, you can penetrate and do this. And I agree, profit is not a bad word. We are training our students, of course, so that they can make ultimately profit. And we want to rule the world now, which is not having young population. I mean, today, China or India, this is the only world that's going to have the people. So please help us in empowering them. Thank you.
I would like to address this. This is a very, very interesting topic, that this is the kind of money which is needed for getting the gross enrollment ratios to this level. I just want to throw some figures at you. There are 5,000 engineering colleges in the country. And these engineering colleges, which are privately run, are operating as on today on a 65 to 70% capacity. Let's just assume that it goes, you invest about 15 crores to make an engineering college. So in this whole system, as on today, 20,000 crores of the capacity which you built as a country is vacant, is underutilized, number one. Number two, what is happening? Who is to blame? You know, we are talking about to look at things and to build the trust. Now, if these 5,000 engineering colleges have been accredited and that infrastructure has been created in the country and someone was responsible for that accreditation, did we look, do we need so many engineers? We are just talking about, like, I'll just give you another example. You are talking about India needs to train so many people by 2020 in vocational skills and you need to get so many people employed. So what I'm saying is that today, when we are talking about these investments, you are talking about only numbers and percentages. But we are not looking at the domains where this infrastructure needs to be created. So I personally feel that the money is never going to be a challenge. In fact, just taking one point forward, there was a roundtable on CSR. And when that roundtable on CSR was there, forget about the private sector, even the public sector, the big Navratnas were there. And every one of them is ready to put money in, at least in the locations where they operate. And they have enough of their own people who will be benefited with that investment. But again, the issue comes, even those Navratnas, which are public sector organizations, they are not clear that if they are able to put that kind of an infrastructure and set up universities and institution of higher education, they will be able to provide quality education under the present regulations. They are not sure whether that investment at least grants them an autonomy.
Okay, right. I think it's time to throw it open to the floor. We'll take the next 10 to 15 minutes maximum before we disperse. So kindly raise your hand, and if
Amit, the problem is, as Himaji very rightly put it, it's about intentions. See, the problem with education sector is it's not the commodity is like, it's not a toothpaste kind of thing, where the cost of good is like 5 rupees, you sell it for 10 rupees and you get ROI. In this sector, the ROI probably comes at a very later stage. But what is happening, as also Vivek also rightly said, there are companies, what they do is they sell products into schools, or rather I would say they gouge the product down the throat of the teachers and the parents. They put the banner outside saying smart class, and what happens is nobody uses it because teachers are not trained, but the parents are supposed to pay huge amount for it. So it's not about, it's not about ROI. The education system is not about ROI. You have to have the right intentions to actually, enter into this segment and then look for the long-term perspective to make money. And
Sure.
you'll make money. That's the point.
okay, point taken. Yes, please.
One of the points which you made in the beginning, whether the private sector can have this labors curriculum framed with the university. I represent National Stock Exchange. This is GC Sharma. What we have done, we offer vocational skill-based programs. We have integrated with the 4 universities and 1 IIM in the country. Our 14 of the modules of NSE, National Stock Exchange, into the university curriculum, and first time in the country, what has been done, whatever examination we take, the marks of the same are credited by the university, and these are all state government universities. They are credited by the state government universities and integrated part of the MBA and BBA programs.
Excellent.
The point I'm trying to make, the university as a system, and this will provide a lot of opportunity to the industry to integrate the skill-based curriculum provided by the industry with the university system. This will give a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. Here's a terrific example of that, and I'm sure there are so many also happening out there and so many more possible. Yes, please. Next question.
Just to add on to what Sir said, the trust deficit, right? As a head of the institute, I personally had those, bad experiences with the private sector. They promise so many things in the beginning, and when it comes to delivery, they fail miserably sometimes, which keeps us away again from the private industry, right?
Right.
And the private industry people fail to understand that education is a serious business. it cannot be taken so lightly, right? Because we are dealing with the aspirations of the students, aspirations of the parents. It is not like one-time selling, all right? So somewhere if you people can address that, then definitely it will help to close that trust deficit, or at least to minimize that trust deficit.
Yes, clearly. So this point's coming out time and again. There is a trust deficit. It's not an easy solution. It is a large issue. Industry will have to continue to work at that.
I just want to add something because, look, we are just sitting here and talking about private sector and academics, and this debate has been going on for a long time. Look, first of all, let us understand that we are also a product of the same education system. So we are someone who have gone to the industry coming out of the same education system. Now, yes, private sector has an issue where private sector has to build the trust. Fine. But as a head of institution or the people who are paying for some service or who are paying for some product, before buying that product, is it not your responsibility to go out and explore that what that product is, what it does? I'll just go to this smart class. Now, smart class is not which a private player can go and force on a school principal. It is something which a school principal is choosing for two reasons. Number one is maybe they want to achieve, increase the achievement level of teachers and the students, or maybe it is a competition pressure for them. Now, private sector is not saying that I will not go and train your teachers. So what I'm saying is that it is a consolidated process, and trust building is not something which is going to come only from a private sector. A trust building will only come when people are looking at various options, various opportunities. There are quality benchmarks which are established, which Vivek very rightly said. I'll just give you an example. Vivek has done this excellent English learning program. For the last 2 years, he has been showcasing this. In our country, we have a problem. In our country, if you look at a student who is coming out of 10th standard, who has passed the CBSE exam, he would have 80 to 90% exams in languages which are unheard of anywhere in the world. But if you look at the language level of that child, there will be a difference. Now for a government today to take this across the country to improve, maybe Vivek or somebody else, he will be able to give a benefit in terms of economies of scale. But today, if we are going to deprive these kind of opportunities, it's going to be a disaster.
Yes, please.
The whole selling process of the smart class, what happens is the whole selling process of the smart class, because I am from private sector, I run a company. The manager goes to a school, the school or the chairman of the school, because it's a private school, they just see that the whole money has to be transferred to the parents. They don't pay it from their pocket. So who is going to taught it? The teacher teaches the smart class. The parents have to pay for it. But neither the teachers nor the parents are in the picture. Parents have no say in the process. Teachers have no say in the process. Either it is the principal, that's it, or the management of the school that takes the decision. That's how it is sold.
Sorry, but unfortunately, private sector is not involved for that trust deficit. I'll just give you an example.
Sir, the whole selling process is built on, I should not say it, but greasing the hands of some people. You know it. I
do that. Look, I'll tell you, I have run the same smart school business.
I know.
But today the fact of the matter is that the whole industry has got together in last 3 months. Because it has gone to a level where you do not even meet your expenses. What about profits?
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, the profit comes at a later stage. Your Aston and Hardcourt, you have given a smart class to 300 schools, 300 odd schools. But now you're closing the process. You have fired the people. Why is it so the ROI is not coming up? Because schools are not paying it. Because kids are not actually looking at it. Because teachers are not teaching it. There's a whole gap in the whole process. Nobody is teaching smart classes.
What I'm saying is that is the competition. That is the world. That is the challenge of the industry. Some companies would survive and some would close down. Now the question here is that if you look at the whole process, everyone who is associated with education, Even if you set up a school today, or even if you set up a university, if you set up a business, anyone who is seriously involved in the education business, he is looking in returns only over a period of 7 to 10 years.
You are absolutely right, and that's what is happening. See, there are management college, over a period of time, they've been very successful, and there are management engineering college which are not successful, private as well as, I mean, the examples are there. Those who looked at the long-term perspective, they survived. Those who looked at the short-term perspective, they failed. That's how the industry is. That's what I say.
And that's, and absolutely, right? And that's the whole idea of the market forces, right? Some will fail, some will do well. People who don't provide good service will ultimately shut down. And there's one point I want to just mention on this profit thing. See, if I had 1,000 crores and I was very good at heart, I would say, okay, I'd want returns in the next 25 years. That's fine. Now, a lot of companies like mine, we need, every company needs money to innovate, to go out to schools, to colleges, right? And it's a complex model. You raise money, stock market, it has certain expectation, you have investors so it's very easy to say that you should have a long-term perspective, but I think the answer is far more complex. And I think we need to keep that in mind. Would you have a perfect solution for the next, somebody works on for the next 30 years and then go out? Or would you rather do what you can, keep improving the stuff, and work with all the stakeholders, because it's an optimal thing.
That is why, Vivek, you rightly said the only way to make money is out of government. You make money out of government initially, and then you build on that.
I would just like, just one idea which when I was so much actively involved in the placement cell as this thing, at that time my boss, he told me, I was wanting to, because I was interacting only with private sector. Private sector will give my students jobs, all right? At that time, one of them came, they said, as all of you, as there's so much place, I'm telling you, for even those English teaching modules in the higher education setup also. Because every institute want to showcase that so many students have been placed. And we all recognize the teachers or the placement in charges, the ones who are there, we all recognize one of the major things is the communication. Then comes problem solving, then comes analytical, and then comes teamwork and all that. In teamwork and in English communication, you all can add value. But now, why will we pay you, or why will higher education pay you big money for that? There, one of the things which we discussed, of course we didn't work, at that time, there was again, in Delhi University or in any other university, you have 5-term project for anything. The moment the power changes, everything changes. The whole cycle change, again you have to do the hard work. Was that, why not you all just get together? You all decide that the fight, all my higher education setups are only giving 25% employability. We are not, we are not making students enough competent or enough competencies so that they can fit in the good environment of industry. You come and you make inroads into all those placement coordinators and to the administrators. We'll do the training, we'll find the companies. You all are industries. Why don't you also that, we'll bring 10 industries. We'll introduce 10 companies, who will give you job. HCL is doing that. I can name so many companies which are doing that. Why not you also give a training, if there are training modules, make your own group so that you also find companies for the college or the companies for the higher education setup which can give jobs also through it. We all know what is the parameter. I'm into so many of the panels, we know how Infosys takes people, we know how Wipro takes, all those things which are already there. So why not you also find ways so that you fit into the training, so that I am getting that immediate result. You're talking about short-term result. Yesterday somebody said that China is planning for next more than 100 years. That's the reason China planning is, and we are not doing it. He's right. Short companies will only survive because they are looking for profits immediately. Recognizing that, I'll suggest, why not, you showcase with your effort that you are providing jobs also to the students. Train them, give them jobs. That is one result, which way you can also bring confidence into the setup that you are serious. You want to help the institute to further take it on. That's it.
Okay, I think let's take the last 2 questions.
Thank you. My name is Chaitanya. I work for one of the world's largest for-profit education companies, and I've worked in the US as well. We have around 7 lakh students in 30 countries. I just want to share, I think somebody mentioned we need to develop the perspectives from other countries. And as a country, I think we are going through the transition of figuring out how this private and public partnership should work. And I think it's great that we started that thinking. But what US has done, I just want to share a couple of snippets there. What US has done as a country, they figured out the model where all the stakeholders can be happy. In the sense, what are those metrics? As Seemaji just pointed out, the private sector should basically prove that they can provide the jobs. And some of the metrics are like the government actually funds the students. As most of you know, government actually sponsors and they pay for the entire education, higher education in the US. So what the government says is, if you prove that the student after he graduates within the certain amount of time, it could be 1 year, 2 years, they will pay off that loan. That means you're actually making the student get a job. I think as a country, we need to figure out what are those metrics, what is that common minimum platform as we use in the political scenario to run a coalition government. I'm just drawing that analogy. What is that common minimum platform which we can set up between private sector and public sector where all the stakeholders basically come out of this happily?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's close to 6 o'clock, and I think coming to the end of the conference and the valedictory. So, thank you all, the panelists. I think we've touched upon some extremely profound and core topics, centered around trust, centered around innovation, centered around how learning happens, centered around the profit word. Very fundamental to the paradigm of how things will go forward. We've had, a very wonderful discussion, so thank you all, panel members, for this wonderful session, and I hope you enjoyed it as well, and thank you all for your participation. Over to Ravi to close this out.